Did you know that over 1 in 3 UK households can no longer afford basic essentials without going into debt? Or that in cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester, rent has climbed so high that even full-time workers are living in shared flats well into their 40s? It's not just your imagination. The UK's cost of living in 2025 has spiraled completely out of control. But here's the real kicker. This crisis didn't happen overnight. And it's not just about inflation. There's a web of hidden forces making your money vanish faster than ever. From government policies that quietly take more of your paycheck to food prices that rise even when fuel and supply chains stabilize. And the scariest part, it's getting worse, not better. So what's really going on here? Who's benefiting while millions struggle? And what's coming next? In this video, we're breaking down the 10 biggest reasons life in the UK is becoming unaffordable, and some of them might truly shock you. Stay with us because by the end of this video, you'll see the full picture and understand what it means for your future. Let's dive in. The new reality check. Forget saving for a holiday. These days, many UK families are struggling just to keep the lights on. In London, the average monthly rent now eats up over 60% of a full-time worker's income. In Bristol, even a modest bedroom flat costs more than it did to rent a 3-bed just 5 years ago, and in cities like Glasgow, Leeds, and Sheffield, food bank usage has hit record highs, not just among the unemployed, but among working people. This isn't just a cost of living crisis anymore. It's a complete lifestyle collapse for millions. A decade ago, you could work hard, budget smart, and still make ends meet. Today, even double-income households are falling behind. Why? Because everything costs more. Your morning commute more expensive. Your energy bill through the roof. A simple grocery run. That's your week's budget gone. And what's even more frustrating, your income hasn't kept up. Wages are crawling while prices are sprinting. You're not spending more because you're living large. You're spending more just to survive. The rules of daily life in the UK have changed. And unless you understand what's really fueling this chaos, it's nearly impossible to fight back. So, let's break down what's driving this crisis, starting with the one force that's draining your wallet faster than anything else. Inflation isn't just a number. Inflation is one of those words we hear all the time. But in 2025, it's no longer just an economic term. It's something you can feel in your bones and see on every receipt. In simple terms, inflation means the price of things is going up. But in the UK right now, it's gone far beyond normal levels. Food prices are up. Utility bills are up. Even things like toothpaste, toilet paper, and cooking oil have become noticeably more expensive. And the worst part, your income hasn't kept up. This is what economists call a real wage decline. It means that even if your salary has technically gone up, your buying power has dropped. So that 5% pay rise you got last year, it's been wiped out, and then some by inflation that's rising much faster. So what's driving it? First, global supply chain disruptions still haven't fully recovered from the pandemic. Add to that the ongoing effects of Brexit, which have made importing goods into the UK slower and more expensive. Energy prices also play a big role. When it costs more to transport and store goods, businesses pass that cost on to you. There's also the falling value of the pound. When the currency weakens, imports become more expensive. And since the UK imports a significant portion of its goods, it hits households hard. To make things worse, the Bank of England has raised interest rates to try and slow inflation. But that means higher mortgage costs, credit card interest, and loan repayments, pushing household budgets even further to the edge. Inflation isn't just a number in the news. It's a force that's reshaping everyday life. One shopping trip, one energy bill, and one lost opportunity at a time. The broken housing ladder, the dream of owning a home in the UK, is slipping further out of reach for millions. And for many, even renting has become a financial burden they can barely carry. In cities like London, Manchester, and Bristol, average rent prices have soared by over 10% in just the past year. For young professionals, families, and even retirees, finding affordable housing is becoming a near impossible task. The term generation rent isn't just a phrase anymore. It's a reality that's stretching across all age groups. But why is housing so expensive? First, there's a long-standing shortage of homes. The UK simply hasn't built enough properties to meet growing demand. With more people chasing fewer places, landlords can charge more, and they do. Then there's the sharp rise in mortgage rates. After a series of interest rate hikes by the Bank of England, many homeowners are now paying hundreds more each month. For first-time buyers, the upfront costs have become so high that they're staying in the rental market longer, which only increases demand and drives up prices further. Another major factor is the rise of buy-to-let investment. A large portion of homes are being purchased not by families but by investors looking to rent them out or flip them for profit. This reduces the number of homes available for genuine buyers. And let's not forget the rise of short-term, less like Airbnb. In places like Edinburgh and Brighton, entire neighborhoods have shifted toward holiday rentals, reducing long-term housing stock and pushing up local rents. The results? A housing market that feels more like a trap than a ladder, where even working hard and saving isn't enough to secure a place to live. For many, homeownership is no longer a goal. It's a fantasy. Energy bills. The silent burden for many UK households in 2025, turning on the heating now feels like a luxury decision. What used to be a background expense, a basic part of everyday life, has turned into one of the biggest financial pressures families face. Across the country, gas and electricity bills have doubled since pre-2020 levels. In colder regions like Glasgow and Leeds, the impact is even more severe, with families having to ration heating during the winter months just to stay within budget. So what's driving these painful energy costs? It starts with the UK's heavy reliance on imported gas. When global gas prices spike due to conflicts, supply chain issues, or market speculation, UK households feel the hit almost instantly. Unlike some countries with stronger domestic energy production, the UK is highly exposed to international price swings. Add to that the long-term effects of the war in Ukraine, which disrupted energy supplies across Europe. Even years later, those market shocks are still rippling through the system, keeping wholesale prices high. On top of that, many energy suppliers collapsed during the height of the crisis. The companies that survived did so by increasing their prices, and with less competition in the market, there's little incentive to lower them. Another issue is the UK's aging housing stock. Poor insulation and outdated systems mean many homes require more energy just to stay warm. So even as prices climb, energy efficiency remains low, leaving people stuck with high bills for mediocre comfort. While there have been government support schemes, they've often been temporary and limited. For many, the burden remains. Energy is no longer just a utility. It's a financial strain that quietly eats into household budgets every single month. Why? Your paycheck doesn't cute it. You're working just as hard, maybe even harder, but your money isn't stretching like it used to. That's not bad budgeting. It's a direct result of wage stagnation, a problem that's been quietly building for over a decade. And in 2025, it's hitting millions of workers head-on. Across the UK, wages have failed to keep up with the rising cost of living. In real terms, most people are earning less now than they were 5 years ago. And when everything from rent to groceries has gone up by 20 to 30%, even a small gap between income and inflation becomes a crisis. One of the major drivers is the growth of low-wage, insecure jobs. In cities like Liverpool and Birmingham, the gig economy has exploded. Food delivery, ride-hailing, short-term contracts. These jobs often come with no benefits, no sick pay, and little chance of upward mobility. Meanwhile, public sector workers, including nurses, teachers, and civil servants, have faced years of below-inflation pay increases. Many have reached a breaking point, leading to strikes and staff shortages across essential services. At the same time, private sector employers are reluctant to raise wages significantly, fearing economic downturns, higher taxes, and rising operational costs. The result is a workforce that's working full-time but struggling to afford full-time living. Union membership has also declined, weakening workers' bargaining power. Without strong collective voices, pay growth has slowed, while corporate profits in some industries have continued to rise. So when it feels like your salary just doesn't go far anymore, it's because it doesn't. The system isn't broken by accident. It's been built this way, and right now it's ordinary working people who are paying the price. Food, transport, and daily life. The cost of simply getting through an average day in the UK has become a financial challenge. It's not just the big expenses like rent or energy. It's the day-to-day basics that are now quietly draining wallets across the country. Start with food. In supermarkets across cities like Leeds, Manchester, and London, the price of staples like milk, bread, and eggs has jumped dramatically. Some items have doubled in cost since 2020. Families are switching to cheaper brands, reducing fresh produce, or relying more on food banks. Not because they're mismanaging money, but because food is now unaffordable for many. Transport costs aren't offering any relief either. Petrol prices, though slightly lower than their 2022 peak, remain far above pre-pandemic levels. For those who rely on public transport, it's not much better. Train fares rose by nearly 6% last year alone, and in cities like Birmingham and Sheffield, bus and tram fares have followed the same trend. Owning a car isn't cheap either. Insurance premiums have risen, road taxes gone up, and the cost of maintenance and parts, many of which are imported, continues to climb due to supply chain issues and Brexit-related complications. Then there are the overlooked expenses: school meals, basic toiletries, household cleaning products, all creeping up, making even routine shopping trips more expensive. For a growing number of people, budgeting has become a constant exercise and sacrifice, choosing between petrol or groceries, new shoes, or a heating bill. The rising cost of daily life doesn't make headlines like mortgages or tax hikes, but it's where most people feel the pressure every single day. And it's these small, persistent expenses that are pushing more households into financial stress than ever before. Chilled air and health care, the two-edged sword. Two of the most essential pillars of everyday life, child care and health care, have become some of the most expensive and stressful challenges for UK families in 2025. Let's start with child care. The UK has some of the highest child care costs in Europe. In cities like London and Bristol, full-time nursery care for a single child can easily exceed £1,300 per month. For families with more than one child, the costs quickly become unmanageable, often forcing one parent, usually the mother, to reduce working hours or leave the workforce entirely. And while the government offers a limited number of free child care hours, many families don't qualify. And those that do often find the hours don't match their work schedules. On top of that, staffing shortages in nurseries and rising operational costs have driven fees even higher, placing added pressure on already stretched households. Healthcare, while still technically free at the point of use, is no longer easily accessible. NHS waiting times for GP appointments, surgeries, and specialist care have grown dramatically. In some areas, patients wait months just to be seen, leading many to turn to private health care out of desperation. But private care comes at a high cost. Even basic consultations can run into the hundreds, and dental care is especially difficult to access affordably. In cities like Glasgow and Leeds, NHS dental appointments have become so scarce that people are traveling to their towns or skipping care altogether. For families, this means being stuck between two impossible choices: paying thousands for child care in order to work or leaving the workforce, waiting months for care, or paying out of pocket for private treatment. Both systems are strained, and for ordinary people both have become more of a burden than a safety net. The Brexit and economic wildcard. Brexit was meant to give the UK more control over its economy, borders, and future. But nearly a decade later, the economic consequences are still playing out. And for everyday people, the results have been anything but empowering. One of the biggest impacts has been on trade. Since leaving the EU, UK businesses have faced new customs checks, tariffs, and regulatory hurdles. This has slowed down imports and exports, increased costs for suppliers, and ultimately raised prices for consumers. Everyday goods, from fresh fruit to electronics, now come with higher costs and more frequent delays. Worker shortages have also become a lasting issue. Many sectors that rely on EU labor, such as farming, transport, hospitality, and healthcare, have struggled to replace staff. The result: longer wait times for services, reduced productivity, and employers raising wages just to attract candidates. A cost often passed directly on to consumers. The value of the pound has remained weak compared to pre-Brexit levels, further increasing the price of imported goods. This devaluation hits hard in sectors like energy, manufacturing, and retail, where imported materials are essential. On top of all this, uncertainty continues to weigh heavily on investment. Many international businesses have reduced their presence in the UK or moved operations to the EU, leading to fewer jobs and slower growth in cities like Leeds, Birmingham, and Edinburgh. While the government continues to negotiate trade deals and promote economic independence, the reality for many households is rising prices, fewer choices, and a more fragile economy. Brexit didn't cause every part of the cost of living crisis, but it has added complexity, instability, and long-term friction to an already struggling system. And for millions, it remains a wild card with no clear resolution in sight. Is there a way out? With the cost of living rising across every aspect of life, it's easy to feel like there's no way forward. But while the situation is undeniably difficult, it's not entirely hopeless. The path out just isn't simple or quick. On an individual level, many households are already adjusting in creative and resourceful ways. People are forming local co-ops to buy food in bulk, switching to community energy schemes, or downsizing to more affordable areas outside major cities. Budgeting apps, second-hand markets, and mutual aid groups have become everyday survival tools. But personal strategies can only go so far. Real relief will require deep structural change, and that's where things become more complicated. The UK will need a serious rethinking of policies on housing, energy, and wages. Building more affordable homes, investing in renewable energy to reduce dependency on imports, and linking wages to inflation are long-term goals that need immediate attention. Rebuilding trust in public services, especially the NHS and education system, will also be essential to easing pressure on families. Some experts argue for-targeted tax reforms that protect low- and middle-income households, while others push for stronger protections for renters and stricter regulation on utilities and landlords. But all of these solutions require political will, something that's been in short supply. Meanwhile, the global economic climate remains uncertain. From supply chain disruptions to geopolitical tensions, many of the pressures driving up UK prices come from outside its borders. So, is there a way out? Yes. But it won't be fast and it won't be easy. It will require a combination of government action, economic resilience, and community-level support. Until then, millions across the UK will continue to adapt, cope, and push through, waiting for a more stable future to arrive. So now that we've laid it all out, how is the cost of living hitting you? Drop your story in the comments. Your voice adds real power to this conversation. If you found this breakdown helpful, check out our last video. It connects the dots even further. We pour hours of research and effort into making content that truly matters. So please support us with just one click. Hit that subscribe button